next to the window doesn't help. I was here this afternoon for a meeting.
It is almost there now.
You can hold my mouth.
I see people are going now.
Get on.
Yeah, well, see if I got a hanger.
We are good.
All right,
Okay.
welcome to the. Let me shut myself off here. Welcome to the July Indiana County Council meeting. Would you please rise with me and say the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is, are we good over there, Heather?
Yes.
Okay, first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the June 9th, 2026 meeting. Has all the council members had an opportunity to look that over, and if so, are you in agreement with everything that was recorded there, or are those minutes good?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the
All right.
minutes. I didn't make any motions at all in that last meeting.
Okay,
Great.
can we get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes as recorded? Any opposed? Okay, we have Miss Turpinning up next for the library. It's all yours.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing about our project and hopefully passing the board resolution. I'll be giving you just a little bit of a recap since I've already given you the information before. So we are looking, the library's looking for a $10 million bond. This will get started on some of the things that are definitely in desperate need that need to be fixed at the library. You just can come by and drive by and see some of the things like the pillars and the handicap ramp that are disintegrating. We have, we've been looking at this project for about 2 years, and really, going over it to make sure it is something that our community needs and wants, and, they have told us that they do. So I'm hoping that you will respect that as well. The library has not had any improvements, since 1964, and the building is in desperate need of repairs. We have a dated HVAC system that's using approximately $70,000 worth of utilities every year. We're hoping to at least cut that in half. We have different ways that we use the building now than they did in 1964. We have a lot more programs and services that we provide. The whole idea of the library is a third place where people come not just to read and to use computers, but also to build community. Today we had a dinosaur tea program as part of our summer reading program, and it was standing room only in the auditorium. And we had to turn some people away because a lot of people in the community use the library and they enjoy it, even if they never walk in the building. We also offer a lot of e-resources as well. As you know, the building started off as a house in 1929, and it was in the 1960s when they built what you see now. A lot of the areas in the library are not accessible for people who have mobility issues. Currently, they don't have an elevator to use because we're repairing that. But also the stacks are too close. Even getting into the building is a challenge. And these are things that we're looking at improving so that we can better serve the community. I think you'll find after Jason Tanzel from Baker Tilly presents his information, and you should have copies. If not, we do have some hard copies for you. That yes, taxes will be raised, but it'll be a very minimal amount, and it will be well worth it. Just for fun, but also for my own edification, did a return on investment for 2025, and even though our operating budget is right around 2 million, We offer by the time you look at all the books we circulate, all the programs we offer, all the services we provide, it's well over a $5 million worth. So people get back much more than what they give to the library. So with that, I will certainly be available to answer any questions if you have now or after Jason speaks, or also our architect is here, Kevin Montgomery from KRM, so he can tell you a little bit, and Will is here if you have any legal questions. So does anybody have any questions for me at this juncture?
How much money have you raised so far for this project?
Well, we haven't actually raised any money for the project so far. There are, we need to see how the bond works out, and there are other options we have for some community funding that we've been talking to organizations that will that want to work with us to do part of the things that we're going to be doing. But we have to do step 1 before we can do steps 2 and 3. So. But yes, I've been assured that there are community organizations that will be helping us with some of the things that need to be done, so.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you so much.
Evening, council members. Thank you for having me here this evening. I'm Jason Tansel with Baker Tilly. I'm a managing director, and I'm here tonight to talk about the financing information that would be before you in approvals. The information should look familiar. It is the same information that we reviewed 2 months ago, but I'm here to talk about maximums as well as the tax rate impact. And so, as Judy mentioned, the library is looking to issue a $10 million bond to pay for this project. And as we talk about this financing, we will be reviewing these maximums, and these are maximums we cannot exceed, but we can come down from. They include the borrowing amount, the interest rate, the repayment term, and the maximum annual payment. So we have a presentation here for you. Again, it's almost identical to the presentation from before, but I will review this slide here. As Judy mentioned, this will be payable from property taxes, and the library does not currently have any debt outstanding. So this will have an increase to the tax rate for the library. So with that, on slide 2, you should see a calculation of the library's general obligation bond capacity. The bonds being discussed here this evening are general obligation bonds, and there is a limitation as to how much the library can issue for a general obligation bond, and the limitation is 2% of 1/3 of the most recent net asset value. Using the 1.7 billion for page 26 for net assessed value, you can see that approximately $11,345,000 is available for a general obligation bond. So the $10 million being discussed here this evening fit below that constraint. Our third slide is a summary of the maximums that would be within the resolution for the council's approval. Again, the borrowing amount maximum is not to exceed $10 million, and we would anticipate $9,730,000 being available after bond cost of issuance. Currently, we are proposing a 15-year repayment term to help minimize interest expense, but we are establishing a maximum of 20 years to provide flexibility to the library should something unforeseen happen. Based upon the 15-year term and a maximum interest rate of 6%, you'll see an interest expense of $5.6 million. Just note that we feel that's a conservative interest rate estimate. Today, we feel for a 15-year bond, the interest rate would be closer to 4.5% to 5%. And at that rate, interest expense would be cut by $1 million to roughly $4.5 million. The maximum annual payment is also a not to exceed. That's $1,042,000. And based upon that $1,042,000, you'll see our estimated annual tax rate impact of 6.12 cents. So these would all be information potentially within the resolutions for the council's approval. Our final slide is a taxpayer impact of what 6 cents would mean to taxpayers within Jefferson County. And I won't review every single one of these line items, but you'll see that, for example, if you look at the market value of home on the far left column, per the U.S. Census Bureau, the median home within Jefferson County is roughly $194,000. And that Annually, that 6 cents would be an increase in taxes paid of $51.09. On a monthly basis, for those paying an escrow, that would be roughly $4.26. For agricultural land, we use the Department of Local Government Finance assessment, and that for pay 27 is established at $2,120. So you can see, we want the 1 acre or 100 acres of agricultural land to be used as a multiplier. And so you can see for somebody who owns 100 acres of agricultural land annually, this would be $114.17. Also provided are 100% commercial property there at the bottom. For businesses, it'd be $61.20 annually. Also important to note that if approvals are received and the library is able to move forward, this would be a bond issued this year in 2026. As soon as that would be as quick as possible. And so that would be hitting the tax rolls next year in 2027. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions the council has, or turn it back over to Judy or Kevin.
I appreciate this. It gives us a lot of information.
Thank you.
It's a lot of good information in 3 slides.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
And most bonds, you cannot pay them off early, correct?
So a municipal bond is a fixed income security, and so we would establish what we call a call date to where potentially if interest rate if interest rates are lower, we could potentially at that time redeem to have lower annual payments, or even eliminate a payment if savings were that achievable. But because it's fixed, we have to wait until we get to that call date. A standard would be 10 years. So we would have to wait about 10 years to be able to potentially call these, redeem them, and issue at a lower interest rate.
And we are looking, do I understand this correctly, for over 5.6 million in interest over the 15 years if it went?
And that is using the maximum interest rate of 6%. Again, we feel the market is closer to 4.5% or 5%, which would be 4.5 million of interest expense. We just wanted to be conservative in our estimates.
So we're looking at half again in interest that will be paid over the life of the bond.
Yes, correct. Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you for the information.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, again, Kevin Montgomery with KRM Architecture, based out of Indianapolis. We work on public libraries throughout the Midwest. Started working with Judy in 2024, beginning with kind of a building assessment and use study. And, discovered kind of as she described, the services of modern library have transitioned over, continuously, but especially over the last 20 to 30 years. They're missing key spaces such as private study rooms, more modern technology and large public gathering spaces. Really the shift from what a library was as a traditional hard resource basis. They continue to serve that in smaller increments, and the buildings are used more as community focused gathering spaces, people to people resources, technology to people resources. And that's what this facility is lacking. We did explore, kind of the gamut. So what would it be like if we looked at a new facility? Those costs estimated around $18 million before land costs. So you'd be somewhere north of 20 probably. So roughly about twice as much. And eventually got down to, they gave us the direction. We need the best bang for our buck. We want to be able to serve our community at the level of our peer libraries that have these modern spaces. We have great staff that are ready to serve in that capacity, run more programming, and give more resources of kind of the modern age. So what do we need to do to our facilities to make that happen? And that's the result of the study that was completed last year, which resulted in the estimate of $10 million bond. Break it down another way maybe is also the project for me is really 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 in the sense that a third of this is going towards restoration and upgrades of things that have been deferred. So your mechanical, your fire alarm system, some life safety, a lot of accessibility, ADA issues. And then a third would be wear and tear. So the finishes throughout the building are failing or dated. Lighting systems, things that, make the space much nicer. And, we're probably becoming, 10 years past life on some of those things, but it doesn't result in any life safety kind of issue. And then a third would be truly added amenity, because we are recommending expanding out the back of the building so that the children's department can come out of the basement. So right now, there's very little daylight down there, exposed structure and ductwork at 8 feet. And one thing, if you've been to, some of the newer facilities, and I'm sure they're within your community today, really we're creating much better spaces where people want to spend their time. And libraries are no different. It's no longer, let's come in and, what do we check out? And we're gonna be gone in 10 and 15 minutes. We want people to stay there. We want you to see your neighbors. We're all starting to realize that, yeah, we have all this access at our house and at home, but it's not great if we all just stay in our home all the time. We need to be out. We don't have as many reasons as society to get out and do things. We don't have to, which is great. We're, quality of life is going up, but we're missing that people-to-people interaction. So the library is becoming a huge hub in communities, and you're lucky that you have one right in downtown. And so, we're really excited about the opportunities of the project and, come this far. So just here to answer questions on really the scope of the project. And support it in that way, so.
So is the building and renovating, is it going to be a phased approach, like you said, the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, but is it also going to be a phased project?
It will have phases to keep the building open as much as possible, but phases don't match the renovation, things like that. But, we would recommend, expanding the building so that we have that space come online as soon as possible. Some of the renovation work will probably start before that's ready, so you don't have a contractor there for 2.5 years and spend extra general conditions. So we're gonna balance the cost. They might have a period of 4 to 6 months that's like, okay, you guys are gonna have to close because it's gonna save you $200,000 of GC costs. So we haven't dialed all that in, but it will be phased so that it's not, down for a year or something like that. Fortunate, unfortunate that there's multiple levels of that building, so it makes it easy to kind of isolate. I mean, it's also one of the challenges. You shouldn't have a building that's this small in relative terms and be on 3 floors. But that's what happens when we inherit downtown buildings, right? So, but in that way that we'll be able to isolate a floor, get some of that work done, reopen it, isolate a floor, move through it like that to some extent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, one thing for me, feedback, referencing what I had asked about at a previous meeting, as well as what Ray already hinted to in regards to the library's board's perspective of, this is what we'd like. We would like to have this go through so that the funding is available to do what needs to be done, what we want to do. Has there been discussion or plan in place with a 1, 3, 5, 10-year project if bond funding is not an option? And how would additional funding be secured? As far as this HVAC has to happen first, and I just was curious as far as the board's perspective of short and longer term funding options, and whether, not that somebody's already planning a 5-year capital fund campaign, because you're hopeful for this, but everything under the sun as far as grants, corporation support, like you said. Just curious how deep the board has gotten into discussion on that subject.
I'll try to answer that question. My name is Will Gehring. I'm one of the library attorneys. Rob Barlow also has been here and spoken. He's the other library attorney presently. I've been the library attorney for at least 15 years. And also library attorney in Switzerland County for a decade. I was county attorney here for 31 years, county attorney in Switzerland County for 10 years. So I'm pretty familiar with these issues. Within the current budget for the library, there is no money that be used to replace or repair the HVAC system. The money is just not available with our current tax levy. So You know, we have, talked to some local, not-for-profits that might be able to help and want to help. But they're gonna wait, I think, and see what, happens with the bond issue, and then they're gonna be participating. But I don't think they're gonna step out until that happens. You know, I guess the other thing I would say is in those 15 years or more that I've been representing the library, that's all been pro bono, both in Switzerland County and here. I'm not charging the library for my attendance of meetings on a regular basis or consulting with the director. So the modifications we're talking about here, much like the courthouse was before the fire, we needed to make urgent changes because we were not ADA compliant, fully compliant. We had limitations in our structure. For instance, the elevator we had in the courthouse would never be made compliant. And the library is sort of in that position. My wife had a stroke 9 years ago. She was president of the library board at that time. We made ventures to the library after that with their wheelchair. Number one, you could not, as a person in a wheelchair, maneuver around the library without assistance. The elevator was difficult to use. The bathrooms were almost inaccessible because they're on a separate level. And if you've got children going down in the basement, it was very difficult. And it is very difficult that we do that. So those are things that really need to be addressed. And there's a great need and there's a great demand for additional space and services. For instance, the children, one of the big areas that we want to serve our children, and that basement area is just not very good for that. It's not where they can be observed by parents during the time that they're there and other issues. So having that expansion out the back and having it where parents could view them, you know, without getting involved in being down in the youth children's area, that's a plus. So those are things that need to happen. Some of those modifications are needed for safety. Some of them are needed for ADA compliance. Some of them just needed because the HVAC system is going to quit. And that's a big cost. There was a question about the bond issue when the consultant talks about conservative, they've assumed that it could be a high interest rate. And that's going to mean a higher annual payment and a higher overall interest cost. That's the one, the 6%, 6.5%. That's where you come up with 5 million. But he also indicated that right now the bond rates are more in the 4 or 4.5%, and that will save that in itself would save $1 million. So if we proceed with that, you know, we're not going to go more than 6.5%, but we're hoping to do 4 or 4.5%, and that will reduce the interest cost by $1 million on this project. And that's what the current rates are, and this will be an attractive process. You know, as the resolution that's presented for you says, this is not an obligation of the county. You know, the library board is a separate taxing unit, and they have a separate taxing rate. Though their budget is approved by the county council, and the bond issue has to be approved by the county council, because the board of the library are appointed by the council, by the commissioners, by the school boards, but they're not elected. So if you have non-elected board members, then needs to come before an elected body for approval. So that's why it seems odd that they're here for that purpose, but that's why they come to you for that. There's also some, you know, we've talked a lot about the Madison City Library, which is one of the two libraries, the Jefferson County Public Library System. We also have a Hanover Library, which will also receive some equipment benefits. And they also have, of course, the mobile library that goes around the county and goes to places where the library isn't readily available to people. So, you know, we definitely need more space. They had just like Monday night, they had a art class, their drawing class. They had, again, a really great crowd for that. And that involves adults and some younger people as well that are can participate in those type of art projects. Some reading programs, internet access, which is not available every place in the county. And so you have lower income people who receive very important services there. And if you look on your, right, even if they're a homeowner, and they've got a $75,000 home, the impact for them is $12, less than $12 a year. Well, I went to McDonald's the other day and ordered a sandwich and a drink and fries, and I paid more than $12 for my lunch. So that's an insignificant amount of money if you look at it, based on the services that are being provided, and not just, you know, to any member of the public that comes in, those services are provided, and they're provided free of charge. And that's the statutory mandate that the library has. We can't collect fees or charges from people just to use our services. And you see that, and it's a balancing act. There's some libraries that have gotten sued because they wouldn't let people come in without shoes on, or they didn't want people who were homeless in their library. And again, that's a kind of the distinction that we really don't want to make, because we want those services available, and we want everybody to feel that they're welcome to come into the library. And that's why it's important to have a accessible facility that is comfortable, you know, so that in this heat wave, people who don't have air conditioning or are homeless can get some relief and come and look at newspapers or look at magazines or be in the library for a little bit. There's a lot of people that don't have computers or don't have internet access and computers that really work. So we get a lot of people using those, and then they're on a limited time basis, so that they're accessible to everybody. So any other questions? I think that's really all the comments I wanted to make about this, but I have a lot of historical information that I can, you know, relay if we get into that, but I don't want to bore you guys with everything.
Thank you. That was very instructional as far as the library board in relation to us. That was very helpful for the public. I appreciate you going through that. You very articulated that very well.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We have no other comment. I'm going to read this resolution unless somebody else wants to read the resolution, and then we'll vote on it. I'll entertain motions or move ahead with this. Resolution of the Jefferson County Council approving the Jefferson County Public Library issuance of bonds, whereas Jefferson County Public Library, the library is a public library organized and existing under the provisions of Indiana Code 36-12. And whereas Indiana Code 36-12-3-9 states that a public library board may, by resolution, issue bonds in order to finance the acquisition, construction, extension, alteration, or improvement of structures and equipment necessary for the proper operation of a library. And whereas the Board of Trustees, the board of the library, finds that its present facilities are not adequate to provide the proper library services to present and future library patrons utilizing its facilities. And whereas the board of the library finds that there are not sufficient funds available or provided for in existing tax levies with which to pay the total cost of the renovation of and improvements to library buildings, including the HVAC and programming space improvements at the Madison branch and the purchase of equipment and technology throughout the library district, the project. And the library should, issue bonds in an amount not to exceed $10 million for the purpose of providing funds to be applied to the project. And whereas Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-20.5 requires that before an appointed library board may issue bonds, it must obtain the approval of the applicable fiscal body. Now therefore be it resolved by the Jefferson County Council that the issuance of bonds by the library to be repaid, one, the issuance of bonds by the library to be repaid solely by the library for the purpose of obtaining funds to be applied on the cost of the project in a principal amount not to exceed $10 million is hereby approved and authorized. Two, by the approval contained in this resolution, the county is in no way becomes obligated to repay the bonds of the library, nor do such bonds count against the county's constitutional debt limit. Three, the resolution shall be in full force and effective immediately upon its adoption. I want to say something before we vote on this, and then I'll open it up to my fellow council members. You know, I talked to Judy before the meeting. As much as I love the library, and I do, and it has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, and I've benefited from those drawing classes. And as much as I value the library, and it certainly is a benefit, more than that, I hate raising taxes on people. I hate raising taxes more than I love the library, even if it's just a little bit. We raised them a little bit for the fire departments in 24. We raised them a little bit for the wheel tax in 25. Now we're gonna raise them a little bit for the library, and it just goes against what I believe in. And I just can't do this. Personally, I can't speak for everyone, especially when we've got projects that are coming that I think will benefit us in economic development agreements that will set funds aside for projects like this. I think there's help coming if we can just hang in there for a little while. Especially when only a fraction of the county uses the library, and to tax everybody when not everybody uses it. It's just something that I just can't. I hate it. It bothers me as much as I love the library. I just can't raise taxes on people. I can't support it. That's just me personally. Does anybody have any comments on that?
I'd just like to say that your presentation has been brilliant. And I appreciate your hard work. But I tend to and everybody wants to help the library. I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't want to help the library. But I look at the annual impact of these taxes, and I would like to see them restructured. I would like to move to see them restructured and come back to us. Because I'm a little bit like Dwayne here. I want, and I believe we can help the library. I just don't know in a 15-year spreadsheet of this, whether we never know from one year to the other what's coming up in our budget. And to, put this kind of burden on agricultural land and housing value, I'm just not so sure that I can do this. Anybody else has anything to say?
I'll say that, of course, I'm a downtown resident. I'm very close to, going in there, at least once or twice a month, checking out books, and what have you. But, I would like to see the council keep it, on the table, and I'd like to table this, especially since we have budget hearings coming up here in the next, 2 months. I would like to, have a chance to look at the budget and see where we are financially. I do know we have some major expenses coming up. Safety of the our ambulance service, to keep that. We have to do that legally, so I want to make sure we're not going to get ourselves in a legal bind over that. But I do not want to vote it down. I would prefer to table it right now. And
I'd like to entertain that motion.
I'll make it as a motion then.
But
just for information's sake, this doesn't come out of our regular budget.
No.
They have their own budget.
Right.
And I was gonna follow up, I think where Ray is trying to go is that increasing tax on constituents to pay for a project when, we're coming up for budget session, which may or may not require any adjustment to income tax
Locally.
in lieu of SB1 and property tax.
So I would have a question about if it does take from our budget.
Okay,
So on those properties that are capped out, so this is calculated on using all the properties in the city. Those are gonna be capped out at 1% if they have a homestead. So they're never gonna pay that extra amount, but what they are paying, a percentage of it is now going extra to the library instead of the other units, right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
is there a study saying how much the city of Madison's gonna miss out on and how much Hanover and the county is gonna miss out on whenever it comes down to us looking at our 27 budget?
I do not have that here this evening, but
Okay.
I can work to get you that estimate.
Because that would be, because we would have to claim that as a
income, well, revenue,
loss.
yeah, loss.
And we're already claiming over close to $2 million as a loss right now for homesteads.
So I think that's another reason for us to entertain the idea of maybe tabling this. Are we talking about revisiting this at August 11th meeting or table it for,
I want to do it after budget hearings are completed.
so maybe
Maybe
return
September.
September?
Our
Okay.
our budgets aren't finalized until October, so it would at least need to be at October.
Right.
So I would like to entertain a motion to table this until our October meeting.
So move.
I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, Pam? Did we get the vote, Heather? Okay, so Pam was a nay on that. Mike, I didn't.
I said, I agreed that it would.
The table,
Okay. So I want to say that, you know, when I moved here back in, shoot, 93, you know, one of the reasons as I was looking at see there be giants in the land, I looked at the school system. I looked at the institutions of faith around here. I looked at the historical nature. I looked at the library and I hung around Hanover College. And all of that influenced me as a professional moving into this community. And I think an important part is still all the facets of the community that attracts the types of individuals that want to relocate here, because we need that. We don't want to be a stagnant community. We want to have the types of things that attract young families. I can tell you stories of coming home with 40 books, the children's section, having to count them. Over the years, I mean, it looked like a library exploded up in their room. I said, go to bed, here's a flashlight, you can read, go ahead and you can break the rules and read. And then you go up there and just stuffed animals and books everywhere. And so I have a fondness for the library that parallels Ray's over here, that I think is an important part of a first-class community. And so if we aim for that, we need to eventually support a renovation, a facelift, and an increase to, I mean, I have some concerns about the whole HEPA. I'm sure I don't know what we're breathing in down there sometimes, especially go down into the lower levels. Having been a guy that was, you know, a guy that had to be down in the bilge and help cleaning out the bilge on a ship, I can tell you it's not real healthy, but, so I think all that's an improvement. We certainly want a better foot forward than we can currently put. I think you guys have done a great job of dealing with, you do the best you can to put lipstick on the pig, and you do that, and that's probably a bad analogy. Is Bill's not right now, so that's good. He's not here. Demery's not here recording my soundbite there, but so I want to know that, you know, we're with you. We just want to make sure that we're not, you know, cutting our hamstring at the same time that we're improving something that could get us in dire straits. Whereas I agree with Dwayne, I think we do have some potential for revenue streams that we don't right now experience. We know that the state has not helped us a little bit, you know, as to what we used to be able to count on. We're gonna have to do a lot of work here in August here with our budget and beyond even. So that's it. I try not to cry there. I started to get a little misty eyed. My family, certainly benefited from a golden age at the high school and the school systems in Madison and the library and all the things that support families around here. So
I would go the same thing. This one makes me sick to my stomach. And I tried to get emotional. I'm so proud as an adult. I used to buy more now as an adult than I did as a kid. And wanted to make sure my kids, took advantage of all that it offers. You know, I think the $12 example, Mr. Gearing, that you gave in the McDonald's lunch is a good one. When you look at some of those lower income houses, obviously from hundreds, thousands of families that it will hit them harder. When I look at what my home might be worth and what my taxes could go up, I can tell you, rather write your check on my checkbook than see the taxes increase. Because I know what that's like, to put that on the burden of every citizen, when some can't. I know that the numbers aren't as great per individual, but this is going to hit farmers and agricultural hard, big, as well as businesses. I just kept thinking about a couple family-owned businesses. I was thinking right at Clifty Drive. When you look at those numbers and think what they're already the property tax is already going toward the library, and I hope they're utilizing the services even as a business for their staff. But then what that increase would be, it's substantial. I guess for me, even talking to some other not-for-profits and people who have brought this up in conversation, hearing, seeing the last time you were here, knowing that this was on the docket for tonight. I even had a couple other not-for-profits said, in our world in fundraising, we gotta exhaust every possibility. And that's where my mind kept going back to, what are the other options? You know, because increasing a tax increment, it should be our very last option. I wanted to see, I'll sit on a capital campaign and help raise dollars personally and write the check from my pocketbook for as much as I can. I would rather see every fundraising opportunity. You know, when I look at funding that, I love our Ohio Theater, and you guys know the funding, even HMI, the Community Foundation have given to keep a theater alive that not everybody uses, but they value because of the iconic experience of Main Street. And to see resources like we all know and so appreciate, like our amazing Community Foundation, funding with HMI, Bethany Legacy, who I know the library has been blessed from their generosity already, as well as, again, personal donations, corporate support. I want to see us exhaust all of those options first with high needed things first, whether that be HVAC, so that we can get those utility costs down, so that funding can then be saved. And I'm not saying no for some future vote in October yet, but I like the idea of holding off till we can get through budgeting, and diving into this just a little more, knowing there are some future funding opportunities as well. And that's been mentioned.
And I would like to say, I think I speak for the council in saying that this isn't over. We want to revisit this. We've just got to be very careful.
And I appreciate that, and I think there's been some discussion about other funding sources and other things that may occur in the county. And I hope to be able to discuss some of those with you guys in the future. Because I was on the county BRAC committee, made 3 trips for the county to Washington DC, to them with the county commissioners, meeting with the Army and with other people there. So I know a lot about JBG and projects that are being considered there, and projects that have been rejected in the past. And I think that one is going to have it tremendous impact on the taxes available, through, that the county council will be dealing with.
That's exactly what we're.
And without saying it, yeah, and I also think, and that's, I don't know if I asked it or it was on my mind about the call date. To see what that is, because I know the call date on the jail is kind of far down the road. And it would be nice if we were so inclined to be able to get rid of a bond as ASAP so that it doesn't impact the constituents on an ongoing basis. But I would like for you to come back to us, Judy, when he has that information that Heather inquired about. That is a sliding scale of the unknown is really where that number's going on how we, as we walk through SB 1, and that sliding scale moves from personal property to commercial, and seeing what that looks like for us. And then the other is, as Heather mentioned, if you have any capital campaign projects that you initiate in the meantime, that would be a huge benefit, I think.
I don't know how much work that is for the board.
It is.
Another thought, my public Sharon, I had a taxpayer this week asked me about this subject and said they referenced safety tax, the wheel tax. They knew that their counties, because that's been stated at these meetings, are having to implement an EMS tax, and certainly we hope that that's not in the future of this county. Time to tell, because of that necessity. So then they mentioned, you know, what else are we gonna increase taxes for? This happened to be a city resident also, which obviously is seeing a double whammy, which we didn't want, for the county and the city wheel tax of this individual. And they said, you know, if you told us that taxes had to increase because you had no funding available for county highway, I could stomach that more than the library. And I just kind of waited to see what else came with the conversation. And referencing roads, the county highway impacts every county resident. A bridge that must be repaired, potholes that we all want fixed, gravel conversions that need to be done. And yet we know that funding's been slashed, and we know how hard it is to pay for those needs. Their point was, the individual said, and I don't even use the library, and I quickly said, I wish you would. But their point was taken in the fact that if a tax was increased because of road repairs and necessity, I could stomach that more than a tax increase for library, which a smaller portion of the county utilizes versus, everyone in the county could utilize it, and we wish more would take advantage of it, but 100% of folks in this room don't. So that was something else that I just wanted to share that had come up in conversation this week. That's hard.
Well, does anybody else have any more comments?
I don't.
Do you want me to do a budget reminder just for you guys?
Please.
Okay, so we will meet on Monday, the 10th of August, and then the 11th of August before our meeting. I have a schedule made up for the department heads to come and discuss what they have sent in. And then, of course, we'll have our evening workshops following to come up with those numbers. I have started receiving budgets in, and they've been sending in letters, to go with that. So I'm working on the books. I'm hoping to have them. I have a deadline set of fair, so that hopefully they're definitely all in by the time I get done with county fair. And, then I'll get those ready as soon as I can so that I can get those out to you guys.
And we'll have our regularly scheduled meeting on the 11th at 5:30.
Yes, and then before August, I guess we should finish up July. July 23rd, you guys have a joint session for not-for-profit, which is also a part of that budget, when we figure out how to divide up your guys' contribution through the riverboat funding.
I appreciated Sarah putting together, you probably helped get those all gathered and scanned and sent to us in nice format.
And then hopefully we can just off presentations, anyone that is not able to attend that evening, then we will just put together a little clip of what their request is so that you guys can have something.
Now,
Quick notes.
will that be over there?
Yes, because it is immediately following a commissioner meeting.
Okay. Does any council members have any other comments before we go into public comment? Okay, does anybody from the public have any comments to make? Elijah? Mr. Jano?
You can call me Eli, it's fine. Feel like we're best friends now. So, as has become my surprise habit, let me, do 3 things. Do I still need to do name and address? You know who I am. You know where I live. Which is creepy, really. So let me say, 3 things, before I read this prepared statement. Number 1, you all got this in your inboxes 4 hours ago. I do not expect you to have read it, so letting you off the hook there. Number 2, I know it is not in the purview of the county council what I'm about to read, but your elected officials, your citizens of Jefferson County, I want you to hear the same thing, he's gonna hear very soon. So that's, it's important to me that you're hearing the same messaging. And number 3, everyone's pretty hot and bothered about data centers, and I'll just point out that originally data centers were called libraries. I'm trying not to shake with rage. Here we go. This is a formal proposal for a 1-year moratorium on future data center projects in Jefferson County, Indiana. The proposal is a 12-month moratorium on the issuance of permits to any person, firm, or entity seeking to place or install a data center on any property within Jefferson County, Indiana limits. Activities during this 12-month moratorium would include the county government creating a study group, the Jefferson County Study Group, out of elected officials such as yourselves, which was Mr. Little, and selected citizens to study data center policy around the state, around the country, in order to learn best practices and draft ordinance language for county officials to then vote on. This group will report at regular designated intervals to the county council and county commissioners. The issues that the study group would consider: clear definition of a data center amended to the UDO, sound level ordinances, setback, backup generators, screening, cooling systems, underground utility feed, security fencing, fire department training, which I think we've got that covered. Verification of water rights and adequate supply of water, waste and wastewater management assurances, decommissioning plan to include e-waste, a lighting plan so that Savannah's house doesn't look like a stadium every night. You're welcome. Hazardous materials disclosures, environmental impact, public health impact. The justification is having ordinances will enable us to ensure public health and safety, define what benefits we want for our county, create fail safes that hold any company responsible for not meeting our expectations, and guarantee that we, the people, are not left holding the bag for those companies if they choose to leave our county. Now, I will say this, I think we were all caught quite flat-footed with the rise of data centers. When we crafted the UDO, a data center was about the size of this room. It contained a bunch of servers, and AT&T used it so I could send the funny memes to my buddies. They are much, much different than that. So we need to get to work right now to make sure that we are extracting the maximum value out of any future projects, especially with 2028 coming. SEA 1 is going to ravage small rural communities like ours. So we need to make sure that we have everything we need in place to, as I said, extract maximum value. And as I leave, it has also become my habit to leave you with a wry comment. So let me do that. I believe it said 1964 was the last time that the library was updated. And I just wanted everyone to think, in 1964, Ray Black was only 32 years old. That's how long it's been since we had an upgrade to the library. So just think about it. Thank you. Thank you, Eli.
All within 3 minutes. Good job.
Okay, anybody else have
Hi, sorry.
Awning.
Hi. I didn't have myself on the agenda or anything prepared for you guys, but in the spirit of being open and honest with the information as I do get it, I wanted to come and let you guys know kind of what I know right now with DOC. So, we got our 2027 allocation from Department of Corrections. You want to talk about not getting emotional?
Before you start, so maybe it'll stave off a little bit. I know you're passionate about it. Can you also share this with us in an email?
Oh,
So that
absolutely.
we have it
Yes.
for budget.
Yes, and my goal is to have a whole sheet of what was last year, what we've changed
Wonderful.
this year, so you guys have all of it. However, this was just news, so I wanted to make sure that you
Good.
guys had it. So this year,
Thank
our
you.
budget is cut to $450,509. So they chose to only support community corrections this year. They did not fund our drug court whatsoever. Looking at funding 2026, and again, I will give you guys all this information, but last year we were allocated $643,000, 584. You're getting with me, but so that was almost $600,000 for our CC and about 44.3 for our drug court program. That last year we were cut 20-something%, so they $206,000, and this year we were cut 30%. When we did, and I will attach that as well, but we looked at all of the counties as far as DOC and what cuts were made. And we're like 9th, 10th at the top of budget cuts. I don't know why. I have requested to have a meeting with the department head with IDOC, which is what they said we could do. According to the formula, which I will also put in there, you know, their recommendation without taking into consideration any of the evidence-based treatment services that we provide to the people in our community. They were predicting, based on that formula, it's $333,000. So again, just anticipating conversations I've had in the past, they're gonna say, well, we gave you more than what the formula told us to. I don't know. I don't even have a date for that meeting yet, so I will follow up if I don't hear by the end of this week. I am still waiting for my Indiana Office of Court Services grant. So I'm hoping I will have that information to be able to give to you guys. We have one federal grant right now, and that one is on a federal calendar, so we have that through September of this year. However, I also received an email that they did not receive funding for the next year, so we have one more year to apply for that grant, and those funds will not be available next year. And right now, that grant funds our peer recovery coach. So, there were 3 different federal grants, one SAMHSA, I think one's a DMHA grant that we are working on to submit, both requesting money to help continue funding JCAP, to help continue funding to pile in drug court, that sort of thing. There's also a specific one for drug court, getting some of that education and things out there. So those are all due by Monday. So we are working to get at least 3 additional ones submitted to hopefully help counter some of those cuts that we're getting from the state. But that's all I have right now. But I did want to kind of give you guys information as I know, but I will have a sheet with where we are with that. Oh, one more thing. So on top of that, my JREC, my advisory board met last month, and we discussed programming and what we get funding for. And diversion is the only program that we did not get direct funding for from the state or any grants in that sense of the matter. So the board voted last month that the diversion program, while we still have it, is returned back to the prosecutor's office. So we did already then cut that program and those services being provided here. We had someone retire at the end of June, and just with funding the way it was at that time, I didn't have DOC's allocation, but we chose not to fill that position because I wasn't gonna fill it and turn around and have to. Yeah. So in order to do that, our diversion case manager, then once we moved that program back, then he took over and we split the rest of that caseload. So we continue to opt as normal though. We continue to have those services, and we continue to provide that that high quality that we do, giving those people that help to be contributing members of our society. So again, I will have more and it will be way more structured. I just wanted in just total transparency, just to be here and let you guys know as I learn things, so.
I have one question for you.
Sure.
Apologies, I had a work obligation. I was not able to attend that meeting.
No, you're,
So I'm really sorry to hear about the JRAC programming for the, the diversion. But, the other question I have for you is IDOC, did they cut drug court across the board for every county or was it just a few?
so I couldn't give you the exact numbers, but looking at all of them, it was very random to me. Some places they may not have funded community corrections at all and then only funded their drug court. Because it's a problem solving court. I saw some where they only funded drug court and they cut funding for mental health or veterans court. And I don't know what
I'm just interested what the criteria is. I mean, not that they're, even if we push back, they're even gonna make the consideration, but.
But why? Why not?
Why?
Out of nowhere? I don't know. But that I definitely.
And I guess just thinking even further into that is if there was a criteria for that, what did we miss?
Exactly. How can we make that so that's not something
Yeah,
that's
make it
missed
whole.
for? So, yes,
It may not be anything. It may just been, we're just gonna select. But there has to be some kind of
I will say
criteria, I would say.
that according to, now granted, this has been 2 years and the short amount of time I've been privy to some of those conversations. We did get a lot of people saying, well, you guys are very highly funded for your county size. I think part of that honestly is that when those monies came available, Amber was on that and applied for those. So whereas a lot of counties weren't implementing those programs off the bat, she hit the ground running and said, let's do them all. And I do think sometimes that's looked at differently, like, oh, you have all of these programs running, but you're a smaller county. Well, we may not be Hamilton or Allen or Marion County, but if you look at our numbers,
And our need.
so I'm gonna add CTP, our CTP recidivism's down, so just some additional points to make to them as well of here's what we're doing, here's the programs that we provide, we're following the 8 principles of EVP practices. We have community partners coming in. It's wraparound services, so.
Yeah, I agree with Pam. We kind of went through the same thing with, the Health First initiatives. It's like, if you see the reason, nobody wants to waste money, but if you see results and they're tangible results, then why are we getting cut? That's a good question.
And there's certain things, like, for example, like DOC, who is the administrator of that grant right now, they got the same amount as last year. However, they say that they're 11 behind because 7 had to go because they over budgeted each other the year before. So they also pay us with our own CTP money. I won't go down that track, but it's extremely frustrating of what did we do and why not, but I will get as many answers.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm sorry, I just have a couple questions and they might be dumb questions, but.
There are no dumb questions.
All right, hello, Savannah, Augustine, 5020 North, West 421. The first question is about the homestead exemptions. And I think, either last meeting or the meeting before that, that's going away essentially, right? Or is it phased out?
So the homestead deduction will be phased out, but your homestead supplemental is going to be increased. It will eventually take the place.
Okay, and so if, for example, if you're not yet, like you didn't apply for the homestead exemption or that, are you still accepting those applications or no?
Yes, you can always file for the homestead supplemental and the homestead deduction. You have until January 15th of the payable year for
Okay.
that to be applied. So for next year's tax bill, you technically have until January 15th, 2027 to file for that deduction.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, so when you guys talk about tabling the, library funding or the tax raising situation, would that be something that if you guys do vote for that resolution to go through, would that be a temporary thing? So like that money that people are paying extra on taxes, once that bond is paid off, does that then fall off, or is it just like that tax rate forever?
It's like the jail, so it's a limited tax, it has a term on it,
Okay,
and so it would fall off. I think the proposal was 15 years, so at the end of 15 years, if we passed it and it went into effect, if we didn't pay it off early, it would end and mature in 15 years from the date it's taken.
okay. Thank you. And then one more question. So I'm not sure if you guys have talked about this previously, but for the data center, I'm not gonna beat a dead dog on that, but, has anybody came to you and asked for an abatement on that yet? I know there's not even a building permit that's been proposed yet, so I assume probably not, but is that something that if they do decide, hey, that's something that we can negotiate with, rather than doing like a pilot or something, is that something that's gonna be on the agenda for when it's being considered?
They would approach us and then it would be a public hearing, just like we had with the ERA. So, but we haven't heard anything about that yet. Nobody's come to us about that.
Oh, for sure, yeah, I didn't think so, but I was like, well, I think there's some misinformation out there because, you know, people, I just don't want everybody to panic that the public's not gonna get a say, because I think public voices don't matter too, so.
Yeah. Nobody's approached us. I mean, we were not at that point yet, and I don't know when that's gonna happen. And they may never even come to us about an abatement. I'll just tell you personally and publicly, I'm against abatements for them. I'll just say that right off the get-go. As far as I'm concerned, they need not apply for abatement. So that's just me. I can only speak for me.
Same.
6:41 PM Eastern Daylight Time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca Schaefer, all kind of know each other now. Once again, not a public speaker, so I've prepared something. So at the last meeting, when I clarified that the ERA designation approved by this council included only 20% undeveloped taxable land, I was informed that my calculation was inaccurate. However, I have not received any documentation identifying the specific discrepancy or showing where my calculations are incorrect. During that discussion, especially after rewatching the video, someone from the council asked, "What's the point?" and another responded, "I don't know." I believe it is important to address those comments because the point is that facts matter. This council has a responsibility to ensure that major decisions are based on accurate information and that statutory requirements for establishing an ERA have been satisfied. When a multi-million-dollar development project has already been submitted for much of the area included in the ERA, it is entirely appropriate to ask how much of the undeveloped land factored into your decision. I am also trying to understand the reasoning behind the boundaries of the ERA designation. If the GPA data center project was not requesting the ERA designation, then why were those parcels even included in the ERA area? What was the factual basis for including those properties, and how did those parcels contribute to the required findings supporting the designation? These are not minor technicalities. These are part of the factual foundation used to justify an ERA designation and any tax incentive that may follow. Taxpayers deserve confidence that elected officials have carefully reviewed the information, verified the facts, and fully understood the implications. before making decisions with long-term financial consequences for our community. The Indiana Administrative Code 50 IAC 10-2-2 states that an ERA should not be designated unless the required findings are made affirmatively. Those findings are not merely procedural formalities. They are intended to demonstrate that the statutory criteria have been satisfied before an ERA is established. The question before this council is not simply whether this project is beneficial or whether economic development is desired. The question is whether the required affirmative findings were actually made and supported by the evidence. Those findings require the council to evaluate whether the proposed investment is reasonable, whether the project employment and wage benefits are reasonably expected to occur, whether other stated benefits are supported, and whether the totality of those benefits is sufficient to justify granting the tax incentives associated with the designation. They are the foundation for the decision itself. However, those affirmative findings and supporting documentations were not presented to the public because the ERA designation was brought forward by the council rather than initiated through an application from the project property owner, since the ERA area is mostly parcels with that property owner for the JP project. Typically, when an owner seeks an ERA benefits, the owner submits a statement of benefits outlining all those things.
Yeah.
Would you like me to finish or no?
Yeah, how much longer you got?
Maybe a minute or two.
Go ahead. We don't have that many people talking tonight.
If those affirmative findings were not made and were not supported by the record, the designation may be vulnerable to challenging. Residents have every right to request the evidence supporting the council's decision, and the council may be asked to reconsider or rescind the designation if the legal requirements were not met. At the same meeting, Mr. May stated we all make mistakes. Well, if that is the case, then I have a simple question for the council. If the ERA designation approved over approximately 4,400 acres contains only about 20% undeveloped taxable land, how does this council intend to address or rectify that decision? Will you revisit the factual basis of the designation, or will you allow an action based on inaccurate information to stand? Also following the meeting, I sent Mr. May an email right after that last meeting asking for the documentation you had said you would provide me, and I had not received it. And then yesterday or the day before again, emailed again requesting that documentation. And your return email, I addressed some of your statements that I sent Mr. May the assessor's parcel records from the assessor, the relevant parcel pages from the JPG data center application, and then my breakdown spreadsheet, so he could review my calculations. I asked that if the calculations or my methodology were incorrect, he identify specific discrepancies so the public record could be corrected. I have not received a response. I do gather that it was only just last night that I was able to respond. I welcome any corrections supported by evidence. My goal has never been to spread misinformation. It has been to ensure that the information relied upon by this council and shared with the public is accurate. Questions should not be dismissed, they should be answered. Seeking clarification is not an obstacle to economic development. It is part of responsible government. Transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making are not optional. They are the duty of every elected official. The people of this county deserve elected officials who welcome scrutiny, value accuracy, and treat legitimate public questions with seriousness they deserve. And that is all I have.
Okay.
I will just
Go ahead,
interject here. I would advise the council, if we're going to adhere to our rules, that each person be limited to 3 minutes, and that's our guideline, so we need to stay with that. That's just going forward.
I appreciate that, ma'am.
For her did not get cut off at 3 minutes.
Right, well,
I was timing you.
I guess I don't have the unilateral power to do this, but I just, when we've only got a few people, I kind of give some discrepancy there and give some latitude. I did get your email, and I want to make sure that the information I'm going to give, I have been studying this, I've been researching it, and I did send you an email yesterday. but I'm not 100% sure. So I want to make sure
So
that
did you get my response email after the one?
I did,
Okay,
I
just wanna
did.
make sure.
So I want to get that, I want to study it, because as I said the last time, as I told you in email, if it is only 20% that is left to be developed, then I misspoke. I don't believe that's the case. We talked about the 1,880 acres. Some of those parcels, in my understanding, they don't, the data center is not gonna get all that parcel. But the assessor pulled that whole parcel in there. But they're not, that, it kind of cuts through parcels. That's where the 1,880 acres comes
Well,
from.
so the actual application lists the parcels that are included in the data center. It says the acreage amount, it says the identification number, it is all in on the, I sent you the
Right.
part of it. It is in that application.
Okay,
I didn't pull those numbers out. I didn't
Okay.
take the assessor's
Well,
numbers
let's-
and compare. I literally took the numbers from the actual application.
let me do some more due diligence, Ms. Schaefer, because I want to be sure that I'm getting good information out there. And I believe I'm
I
on the
appreciate that.
precipice of that, but I wanna confirm some things. I wanna confirm some things.
Absolutely.
And I will respond to your email. What I'm seeing is 1,880
So
for,
I know where you got that number.
right, and then only about 590 acres of that are gonna be structured.
Well, we can
So,
say that, but it says.
Theoretically, that could be developed, so you're looking at 80%.
Right, so, but also, there is a discrepancy in the application because it says total parcel acreage as the 1880. But then you add up this is the applicant's submission,
Okay,
and it comes to 2,880. There's
Right.
1,000, so somebody messed up somewhere, but then the question comes, what's undeveloped and what's actually developed? Is
Okay.
there a discrepancy there too? It's
okay.
something that hasn't been addressed. I mean, I brought it to the BZA as well.
Alright.
It's not just to.
Well, let me research this a little more and make sure that we've got all our Ts crossed and Is dotted.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Thank you.
any more comments? Anybody else from the public have any comment? Mr. Little? You don't got anything to say? Oh. I would entertain a motion. If no one else has anything else to say, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
So moved. And second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?